Hi, my name is Elanna, and I'm going to present clinically relevant subgroups among athletes who have ruptured their ACL, a Delaware Oslo cohort study. So we know that there's a lot of poor outcomes after ACL rupture, but this also means that there's certain individuals who aren't part of these stats and who do well after injury. We really wanted to understand if there were subgroups of individuals within this broader population that may provide some insights into who goes on to develop these poor or good outcomes after injury. So to answer this question, we used 293 patients from the Delaware Oslo long-term cohort study. For the statistical analysis, we did what's called a latent class analysis. I'll spare you some of the boring statistical details and just provide an overview. I like this analogy in that it's a little bit less magical than the sorting hat in Harry Potter, but the main goal is to start to identify these more homogeneous subgroups of individuals within a heterogeneous sample or group. So we formed these subgroups at baseline, or the pre-training time point of the cohort study, and we input many variables into our statistical model, or our latent class analysis, representing the constructs of demographics, function, and patient-reported outcome measures. We wanted to compare these subgroups at 5 years to see the presence of radiographic osteoarthritis, defined here as greater than or equal to 1, KL grade of 1, because we really wanted to capture some of these early features of osteoarthritis. So our analysis uncovered 4 unique subgroups of individuals after ACL rupture, and these patients really primarily differed in age and their scores on self-reported outcome measures. We named them accordingly, starting with the youngest here and moving to the oldest subgroup, and you'll see some of the relevant demographic information as well. So this is the younger good self-report group. Next we have the younger poor self-report subgroup, the older poor self-report group, and finally the older good self-report group. So how did these subgroups look at 2 to 5 years after their injury? The younger good self-report group had the lowest percentage of radiographic OA, while the older poor self-report and older good self-report groups had the highest, though this was not quite statistically significant. Subgroups were statistically different in the development of uninvolved knee radiographic OA, where the younger good self-report group had the lowest percentage of uninvolved OA, and the older good self-report had the greatest. We looked at a handful of other secondary long-term outcomes. For the sake of time, I won't go into them all here, but they are clinical OA, return to pre-injury sport level, and undergoing ACL reconstruction by 2 years. So we found that there was a concerning percentage of individuals that had radiographic evidence of post-traumatic OA. While our youngest subgroup only had about 30% involved and 17% uninvolved knee OA at 5 years, they were only 23 years old at baseline, which has nearly 1 in 3 on track to develop knee OA by 30. And though it may be expected that the older 2 subgroups had the higher levels of OA, they were only 38 and 43 years old at the 5-year follow-up, so they're still developing post-traumatic OA far earlier than idiopathic OA, which is typically from 55 to 64 years old. These results provide support for developing an individual-based approach, where a combination of these standardized outcomes are considered when planning treatments, and there's likely no one specific variable that's going to lead us towards the likelihood of developing PTOA, but considering this unique intersection of a variety of constructs during the baseline evaluation is an important step in understanding more individualized care. Quickly, thank you so much to Matt, ACL Study Day, for the opportunity to present this work. This is a really great way to get a short summary of current research to clinicians, so I really appreciate it. And here's my email and Twitter if you have any questions. Do not hesitate to reach out. Thanks.